I would say keep your ear close to the Lord because you need to hear His voice above any others. If it's even if His voice is a whisper, if it's a groan, whatever it may be, but you need to be able to decipher the Lord's voice above all others because that is going to be the rudder for your life.
You are here. Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast. This is the show where we uncover why you are truly here and, more importantly, how to make it your reality. My father, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And research further shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are 2.4 times more likely to feel fulfilled. Each week, I sit down with extraordinary guests, entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders who are boldly living their why. We dive deep into their journeys, the struggles they've overcome, their breakthroughs, and the lessons that can help you do the same. I am your beautiful host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and we're about to explore the mindsets, tools, and strategies to help you live a life with purpose, passion, and legacy. Are you ready? Let's go and dive into the episode. And we are back. Welcome to another great episode of the Purpose Finder podcast, where our mission is simple: to inspire you to find and uncover your purpose in life and to live life overflowing with what? 3 things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. These are important because deep down, we all crave belonging. No one wants to feel unfulfilled. And we are all searching, asking that big question: why in the world am I here? Well, I hope your search ends today here on the Purpose Finder podcast. I'm your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and today I have the great honor and privilege to sit down with someone who's really special. She doesn't only think about purpose, she doesn't only talk about it, but she's actually living it out boldly, and I mean truly boldly. We're going to explore her story, her journey, her struggles, and all the lessons she's learned along the way. Help me welcome my good friend Zemi Stewart of Wife Her Ministry. Zemi, my dear, how are you? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm amazing. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't wait for my listeners, to hear more about who you are and why you are who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And just been a joy. It's been a joy to watch your journey. I've been able to um, watch you meet and marry a very good friend of mine who I
Yes.
went to ORU with,
Mm-hmm.
Ian
Go
Stewart.
Eagles.
I know you. I will say you broke some hearts. You broke some hearts. You broke some hearts when he said yes to you, and I'm like, that's my boy, and that's my girl. So I the audience don't want to hear me talk about who you are, but they do want to hear your heart. So tell us about who you are, where you're from, what you do in the world.
So, my name is Zemi Stewart, formerly Zemi Holland. I grew up in Eleuthera, Bahamas, a barefoot island gal, literally running across the rocks barefoot, climbing trees. And life has just progressed, faced some challenges with the loss of my mom at a young age. I was 12 years old. And then that catapulted me into a sea of uncertainty until effectively I met my husband, who has created a lot of stability in my life. And along with my relationship with the Lord, which was prior to my husband, but the two of those things combined has really helped to stabilize a lot of the turbulence that I was going through in my preteen years into my teenage years. I'm the founder of Wife Her Ministry, which stands for Wife Healed, Empowered, Restored. It is a women's group of women across all marital statuses. I am the lead curator of our all of our events, but especially our hallmark event, which is Galentine Vibes, which is growing. It tours cities across North America, the Caribbean, eventually Europe, and all of the places. Um, and yeah, I think a lot of everything else is going to come out in this conversation. But I'm a daughter of God. I love God. I love serving the Lord. And everything that comes with it I feel like it's absolute joy to serve the Lord.
Absolutely. It truly, truly is. And as I think about your company, Wife Her Ministry, I'm going to assume, and I would like for you to talk about what what started that. What was at the conception of such a ministry, such a name? Um, please tell us more about where that came
Well,
from.
I would use a personal slogan, healed, empowered, restored, or a personal mantra to heal, empower, restored for myself. Um, and when I got married, we were abstinent for 3 years during our waiting process, and thought we were preparing for marriage the right way. But I realized that we were truly, I wouldn't say not ready, but not prepared for everything that we would encounter. And so I was like, I don't want anyone to ever experience this again where they enter marriage and they're like, what is this? And so I wanted to be there for women to help them be healed, empowered, and restored, to take their eyes off of their spouse and what may be going on with them, and instead focus inward and upward. So that's essentially what it's about. And I feel is what we've learned over time is that by focusing on the Lord and building a relationship with Him, you can handle the turbulence. You can handle the turbulence in your marriage, maybe in your career, as you shift from being not motherless, childless, to having children. All of these transitions require resilience, and you build that up through your relationship with the Lord that can help you get through any of the turbulence, right? And so that's been the focus for the past few years, just getting people to realign with the Lord, and build that relationship with Him. I originally thought that it would be a ministry that helped people to learn how to fold a fitted sheet or how to cook Sunday dinner. I thought it was going to be the practical side of things, but just like marriage, when you get into it and it begins to unfold just naturally, that's what we see happening today. So I just pretty much yield to the Holy Spirit and, let the Lord do His work.
So, and I have to ask because you did mention that you lost your mom at 12,
Mm-hmm.
and then you talk about there's this assumption that there was this instability in your life and this turbulence in your life all the way up until you met your husband.
Mm-hmm.
What did that turbulence look like? What was that journey? Was it that you were trying to find yourself? Was it that mom was there, so there was some grief? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just tell
Yeah.
us, like, what was that instability that you faced from 12 years old all the way up to when you met your husband?
Well, initially, obviously, it's the shock. I was a mummy's girl. So it was the shock of the loss. And my whole family structure changed, well, immediately. But also within 6 months, my father was in another relationship, and she moved into our home without the conversation per se. So that caused some turbulence and instability and unease. The relationship was never healthy. Still to this day is ongoing and is not healthy. So it caused a lot of angst and a lot of fear. I lived with a constant fear of dread that I would get a phone call at any moment to say I was an orphan. So there was that. And then my mother's family did not like that her children were in the situation. And so we ended up moving to New Providence, to Nassau, to be with our uncle, who was a bachelor. So another transition. He had, obviously, he's a bachelor, no kids. So it was a huge jump for him to go from 0 to 3. I have a twin brother and an older sister. We're talking about private school fees after we were in a government school in Eleuthera, groceries to feed 3 growing teenagers, extracurricular activities. We are coming out of a situation of grief. So I can speak for myself. I did not have the best attitude. I always did well in school, but I was a little mouthy. I could be a little hard to handle. And so, you're navigating all of these emotions and stuff like that. Family members would come and take me on drives to try to pry out of me what was going on. There was no grief counseling at the time. That wasn't really a thing to say, let's take the kids to grief counseling. So we kind of just navigated through these things on our own, individually. I don't even think we really relied on each other as much at the time either. And so my first relationship was actually before my mom passed, so it was at 12, but I broke up with him. And because I was more like sure of myself and what I wouldn't tolerate, even though I would never recommend. I don't even think I would sign off if my child said I was in a relationship when I was 12 years old, but for some reason that was my story. So anyway, so after that, I was just pretty much in relationship after relationship, just from the age of 12 up until, prior to getting married. I had only been single maybe 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, like since I was 12. So, and, I wasn't picking the right person necessarily. And so it was a constant like heartbreak, headache, literally, like that's pretty much all I knew up until that point. So it was a lot of turbulence for me, a lot of unresolved emotional distress. When I was in college, it was similar as well. I ended up in an abusive relationship when I was in college. Again, it was coupled between obviously choosing wrong and ignoring red flags, and also a part of me was like, I see my dad go through this, so what makes him stay? So I was kind of exploring that in a way that put me at risk. Um, and so after that relationship, I ended up with I wouldn't say it's PTSD because I obviously have no official diagnosis, but I had a lot of triggers and a lot of nightmares, a lot of anxiety that I had to work through. And I finally did go to counseling.
And this is
And
after
so,
the abusive relationship.
exactly, yeah, I finally did go to counseling. Um, a year or two after exiting the relationship, I gave my life to the Lord. And really, I haven't looked back since that point. It's gotten a lot better, but still, I had to work on me. One of the first things that the Lord said to me after that honeymoon season of coming to Christ was, your character is ugly. And boy,
Wow.
hearing
Slapping
that
his
from the
face.
Lord, I literally, I think that broke my heart. I was just washed away because I was like, how do I fix this? And so over time, I slowly began to work on fixing it. Because, a big part of the problem was me. No hiding from it. A big part of the problem was me. And I needed to work through the, the pain in me, to get to, purpose essentially.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's one thing about purpose. It's always preceded, if you will, most of the time by pain that we go through, struggle we go through. And you talk about the different decisions you were making in men, that is, in relationships, all the way from when mom passed to, your current, until you met your husband now. And would you attribute it to unresolved grief, anger as a woman, as a young child growing up, not having a good example? Like, what do you attribute some of your bad decision making to?
I think you want to, because like I said, I was really close to my mom, and you want to be close to someone, and
Mm,
the
mm-hmm,
easiest person, the most logical person is a significant other. When
mm,
your sister also is going through her own thing and processing in her way, and your brother is processing in his own way, and your daddy is doing his own thing, and your uncle is learning how to navigate and stressed about it, so you kind of just naturally, I mean, I have friends too, but you can't, you could, but you can't necessarily like get that a deep embrace from a friend, and so that's what I was looking for,
mm.
just to be held, loved, cared for, I guess. And so that was essentially the avenue I chose to fill that void. And it was the wrong approach. It was the wrong approach because, um,
And you're
of
probably
course,
saying that in
yeah,
hindsight. You're probably saying
yes,
that in hindsight
yeah,
because at the time, it doesn't feel like the wrong approach.
no,
At the time, and I can, the reason why I'm asking that question is because I know you're at a healed place where
hmm,
you can speak to what it was then. And what it was then, you're not making the decision and also thinking this is a bad decision.
no.
Years later you're thinking, yes, that was a bad decision. And I think about how many other women, Zemi, that are listening to this podcast right now who are in the very same position. And one thing you didn't say, I know a lot of the things that we say is, you have women who make poor decisions and men, they have daddy issues. And that's kind of not what you mentioned. Yours was losing your mother in this case, who was very close to you. I'm assuming you and your mom were affectionate. She was your confidant. She was your best friend, and you were only 12. So that
Mhm.
relationship was just getting better and better.
Yeah.
And then, losing her, and then also not having dad there the way you wanted him to. And then there's this other lady coming in, and she didn't fill mom's spot at all. And so now you're left with trying to find, but you still said, I was trying to find that that love. I was trying to find that connection. I was trying to find someone to hold me tight. And friends can't hold me the way that mom did. But I'm also sure that even the different men didn't
No.
love you and hold you the way that mom did.
No.
And there's so
There
many
was a
other.
lot of rejection. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, I say boldly, my husband is the first man I ever dated, and it's true. I dated a lot of boys because they were young. Like the oldest boyfriend I had was 25, and that's when I was 24 or whatever. So they were young, and they made mistakes as well. They followed their own desires and stuff like that, and was doing their own thing. Not They didn't have the consideration to know I'm dealing with someone who's fragile.
Exactly.
So I wasn't handled accordingly as someone who's fragile. So that just led to more and more trauma. And I'd look out of my window, and the only person I wanted to call to talk about it was my mommy. A lot of them, when I did made mistakes, they'll go call their mommy. And sometimes their mommy calling me to talk to me about what you're doing to my son. But I don't have that same thing. I can never, talk to my mom about what I'm going through. And so it just led to compounded trauma throughout the years.
And so what about your character? Because right after, you gave your life over to God, and he said, now your character is tarnished. We need to work on that. It's tainted. What what part of your character was built during this time of these poor decisions and these relationships? Like, what part of your character was built that you also now had to break once you turned your life?
The number one thing was I was overly critical, and I played it off. There's this lovely phrase called attention to detail or discerning. And so, but I was overly critical. I was too focused on flaws. I could see that this person was about to hurt me, and instead of letting them go, I'm like, "You're gonna hurt me. You're gonna hurt me. You're gonna hurt me. You're gonna hurt me," and pretty much driving them nuts because they feel like they can do nothing wrong, or I'm gonna explode at any given moment. And so just overly critical. And now, the default would be to pray, to lean into the Lord, to ask the Lord for what to do, to take those things to the Lord. So I'm not, just all the time a porcupine with people. So that was one of the big things. Of course, there was the aspect of, like just healing and preserving my body after um, just these years of being inconsiderate about my body and my worth. The confidence issue of why I was tolerating some of the behaviors instead of just leaving. So working through a lot of those things, and why my default was flesh that would fail me instead of the unfailing arms of the Lord. So a lot of those things had to be, and I'm still working through some of those things, to be honest.
Absolutely.
But a lot of those things were themes that came up at the time.
So then you get to this point. Thank you so much for being open and transparent, because I can only imagine the plethora of women that are listening, and whether they want to admit it or not, they're hearing themselves. They're seeing you as a mirror and like, man, she's exactly where I am now. And no matter how old they are. And you talk about now getting to a place where you was able to turn your pain into purpose,
Mhm.
your pain into your calling. And that process of going from pain to your calling, was that easy? Was that smooth? Was that, and for everyone is different. I love the stories that I'm hearing on every episode of my podcast, because just like how purpose looks different for everyone. Purpose is different color, shape, size, textures. So is the journey. So of course your journey is would look different, but that from pain to purpose, when I gave my life over to Christ and I realized, and I haven't looked back since. What has that been? What does that journey look like? Um, are you able to give a set time or just a season when that all happened?
So I dedicated my life, or I should say, rededicated my life to Christ in 2013. And so early days, like I said, that honeymoon season with the Lord, when everything is amazing and it's just was pure bliss. And then the hard work started. But I would, go on lunch date with Jesus. It was that time, it was that season of when the girls were going on lunch date with Jesus, and we were talking. It was just a beautiful time, like, back then. I think it's resurging now with the girls and the pursuing the Lord with the prayer boards and stuff like that. But that was the times when we would go on dates with Jesus. So I did that at the park. It's at Tim Hortons. I was still away at university, and really just growing in the Lord. I wasn't with them. I didn't have community at the time. I was away from home, away from a lot of my friends. And so just in the trenches with the Lord, essentially working through things. I found a group who took me in, and they taught me how to fast. And it was just progressive. So I learned about fasting, and then progressively learning about other things as components of my Christian walk. I wrote a book, which is essentially, literally, a heart cleanse. It's called "I Gave It to the Pages." It's a book of poetry, and it's all of the sadness, all of the grief, all the anger in a book, like a time capsule. And, just left that alone. I did spoken word for a while as well. So I confronted the emotions. I did a spoken word about the abuse, about the night my mother died. And so I confronted those things. And then what I started to see was I would look for my triggers. So one time I was getting a facial, and some music was playing, and all of a sudden I'm crying. So I'm like, why am I crying? And so this song was reminding me of a situation, because this particular soundtrack was like the soundtrack of a relationship. And so I was like, okay, God, there's something here. Let's me and you go and work through this. So every time a trigger would come up, I was at the food store. I see Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry is reminding me of a particular situation, the ice cream. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, this means there's a soul tie here. There's some residue here. Let's work through this thing. And so every time that would happen, I'm like, okay, we got work to do. We still have work to do. And let's
And at
keep
this
going.
point, you're still not seeing a counselor. It's just you.
I was at different points. At
Okay.
different points, I was. So, when right after the abusive relationship it was pre 2010. I Actually, was it 2012? I think it was 2012. I saw a counselor for, just very very short at my university. She said to me, it was a little annoying, because every time I would go, she'd have to go through her notes because she couldn't remember my story, which is fine. The one thing she told me that I needed to hear in that season was, what you're going through is normal. What
Mm,
you're experiencing is normal. So all of that, the anger, the outbursts, these things that you're going through,
absolutely.
that's it. Absolutely normal. And that's all I needed to hear. I didn't even go back, because I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was one of one, going through all these things, and no one else was going through. And so I needed to hear that. And then I was able to move forward and progress through that. And then again, later
Before
on.
you move on, I want to
Mhm,
bring that forward.
mhm,
And I would like for you to say that to someone else that may be watching or that may be listening. What you are going through is
is
normal.
absolutely normal. After a traumatic event, after an abusive relationship, it is normal to be angry. It is normal to even want them but hate them at the same time. It is absolutely normal to ping pong for a little bit. It's normal to have the flashes, the nightmares. All of those things are normal, but that doesn't mean that needs to stay as your constant normal. That's normal for that time, in that moment in time, but there's work to be done to get you to a new place. So you're not crazy. Don't let them make you feel like you're crazy. You are just processing through a traumatic event in a particular moment in time.
Absolutely. So what's normal doesn't mean that you have to stay. You have to stay there. And you didn't stay there.
No,
So
couldn't.
this journey from pain to purpose, from pain to your calling, was progressive. It took time. You
Mm-hmm.
did these various things. I love that you were able to see your triggers and not run from them. You were also able to feel your triggers and not react to them. You were able to be cognizant enough and aware that that's a trigger. Let me deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, it was a you and God thing, dealing with it. And not running away from it. Like, I think that's the key. You didn't run away from it. You didn't react to it. You didn't continue to brush it under the rug. You dealt with it face on, head on.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to this place of calling and purpose. Then what? At this time, do you then meet your husband Ian, or do you then start the ministry? What was first?
So it's interesting because my husband and I didn't even know all of this was going to come in the interview, right? But we're being fully transparent here. My husband and I were both in relationships when we met. We worked at the same company. Now, we didn't meet thinking anything that would happen like that. And we weren't in a space where that was on our minds to take place. So I'll explain. So for me personally, the person I was dating, the Lord was telling me that the season is ending and you need to leave. So that very same week, I had my first conversation with my husband, Ian. And all I told the Lord was, I like this guy. I love his faith. If I don't marry someone, if I don't, I would have said to the Lord, I said, I want to marry someone like him. If I don't marry him, I want to marry someone like him. That's what on day one, right? And day one, that's what I said. And what happened on Ian's side, sorry, babe, telling a little bit of your business, was the Lord had been telling him for ages that he needed to leave that relationship, but he was stalling. So what Ian saw me do was as soon as the Lord gave me the instruction, I left the relationship. And so he was inspired because the Lord had been telling him for, I think, over a year maybe to leave, and he hadn't left. So he was inspired by my obedience to leave. And then we took a period of like, let's you do your thing, I do my thing, we fast, and then we'll see if this is the right thing for us. And then we came back together. So I was pursuing the Lord. I hadn't launched the ministry. I was just working on my relationship with the Lord individually, working to get to a good space. I was supporting others in ministry. I was a part of other people's ministries, helping other people in ministry. But I didn't launch anything for myself personally. I would be a part of Bible studies and stuff like that. And I'd say, hey, y'all, let's follow this woman's Bible study. But I wasn't starting anything. And that was great for that season. Now, as soon as I date my husband, he's in ministry, deeply ingrained in ministry. He is a pastor's kid, obviously Shersa knows all of the things. And so my husband was serving in, I can't even count in how many ministries at church. He was serving in small group, praise team, choir, youth group. And so I began to serve in ministry with him in youth group. So I partnered with him in youth group. And so for us, at that time, it was just about our witness as believers in Christ. It wasn't about me standing on a pedestal to launch a ministry or to be a leader. It was literally our witness as daughters and sons of Christ. So we want to make sure that we good so that we're not, infusing a spirit of lust or anything into the children that we're leading. So we want to set a good example for these souls. And that's essentially what became our why. And it was literally just about that. It was just about honoring God. It wasn't about anything else, just honoring God. Now it's different. When you lead a ministry, it's about honoring people and honoring God. It's different. It's like when Paul talks about marriage and how your responsibility shifts and you're not just focused just on honoring God, but you also have to take care of your household. That's essentially what a ministry is, the same type of demand on you, where you also consider it of the needs of the people as well as, being in line with the Lord. Hopefully they align. Make sure they always align, but there's more on your plate. And so, like I said, early on, within about 3 months of being married, the ministry was launched because I was like, no, we got to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else, that no one else feels. I felt like I was trapped, like I was in prison because it was so many things that I had not worked through because I didn't want to make marriage an idol. And so I pushed off some of the work related to marriage because I didn't want to focus on marriage so much. And it was this very interesting toss up where you meet the person that the Lord has confirmed you're going to marry. So it's not about the search for the one, which was a lot of the content back at the time was how to be content in your singleness and stuff like that. But I was always like, what do I do in the meantime? Like this meantime window of the Boaz is here. Now what? Like, and that's a good book title for somebody. Boaz is here. Now what?
Now what?
What do I
So
do?
so wait, let's put pieces all together.
Yeah.
So you met Ian, y'all started dating. How long did you guys date for?
Before marriage or before
Yes.
engagement? And before engagement was 2 years, and
You
then it
dated
was
for 2 years.
a year of engagement.
And you wanted your witness to be um character characterized as good, as upright, as righteous. Was that easy?
No, and we fell short in many ways. Like we didn't do. I mean, I don't know what the viewers. Anyway, let's keep it PG. So we didn't do all the way, but there was pre stuff that shouldn't have taken place in terms of waiting well, right? So that I think we could have stewarded that waiting season better. There was things about Ian that I didn't really sit in because I'm just kind of just flowing with it, like you just want to stay in that space of being compatible and all the oohs and ahs, and so you're not really getting deep, a level deep. That came later, um, and that caused some turbulence as well because you're like, oh, all these things that I didn't see, now we got to work through. It wasn't stuff that I would call red flags, but they are things that if you don't address them, you're going to be in trouble. And on both sides, if you don't address these things, then you're going to be in trouble later on. And so it's not signs to flee. Yeah, exactly. It's not signs to flee. It's sign. Just like when I went to this fridge and I saw Ben and Jerry. That wasn't time to flee and be like, oh, like that was the time to dig and deal with that thing.
Dig and deal. I like that.
Yeah.
That was time to dig and deal.
Mhm.
So it wasn't easy. How would you say, because no matter what I know is also normal is there's always residual.
Yeah.
There's always residual traumatic effect. There's
Hmm.
always residual hurt. No matter how healed, ED, like there's always a healing. It's
Hmm.
always occurring on different levels. And so as you think about what your past may have been, how would you say, even though you were healing by the time you met Ian, how would you say that may have affected the way you guys dated? How has any of that affected even the marriage?
A
You've been
lot
married
of
how long
different
now?
ways. 6 years.
6 years.
Going up 7 in April. Hmm.
And pretty much we're going to get to that question of how important it is that your decisions really do matter when you
Yeah.
look into your future.
Hmm.
But how did some of your past decisions and past memories, past regrets, past pain, unresolved, if you will, um, issues play a part in now your current situation with your current person you're dating, and then this person now becoming your husband? Hey, purpose seekers. If today's conversation has you thinking about your purpose, what it is, how to find it, and how to truly live it, then I have something special just for you. Introducing the Purpose Finder Formula. And you have free access to this 20-minute training designed to help you uncover your purpose and start living it with confidence. No fluff, no guesswork. It's clear, practical, step-by-step guide to finding meaning and gaining clarity and direction. Your purpose is calling. Are you ready? Head over to www.charissamunro.com/purpose finder formula. Enter your info and I'll send it straight to your inbox. Imagine waking up every day knowing your life has meaning, impact, and joy. That's what awaits you. So don't wait. Grab your free training today. Let's get back to the episode.
Well, because of my choices in relationships, and like I said, staying past the point of, hey, this isn't going to work. Um, I had to, one of my triggers was loud talking, and my husband gets very passionate. Not in a shouting way, but even if he's watching a basketball game and he gets very impassioned. And so he gets loud, but he's not angry and he's not upset in any way. But the volume is causing me to be triggered. And to a point where I begin to shut down or I check out. And, so that was one of the things that we had to work through. Sexually, as well as a lot of different things that come up. We have a lot of misinformation about how we steward our pre-marital sex life, in terms of, like, oh, these things are going to benefit your spouse if you do. No, it doesn't, because everybody is different. Some people don't like that stuff. And some people, you know what I mean? So people start things that probably someone else liked that I wasn't a fan of, and vice versa. And so that all of that had to be worked through. Because we had been abstinent, there was some things I couldn't see in terms of my response to things. And so when we began to explore that side of the relationship, more things started to come up for me personally that I was like, okay, this is an area that I need to work through. And I tried to stay open with him about my process, which I find is really good, especially if you have a God-fearing man in your life. Being very open with him, what you're going through spiritually, because very early on, the enemy tried to tell me that he's not the one, that you made a mistake.
Mm.
And the only thing I could respond with, literally, was, no, that's not true. God gave us the rainbow, because there was a rainbow on our wedding day. And what we used to do is I would send him, when we were dating, I would send him the rainbow emoji, and he would send me the sunshine emoji. So the rainbow was a big part of our relationship. So I was like, no, that's not true. The Lord gave us the rainbow. Literally all I had to give. And one of our mutual friends was like, Zemi, tell him, like, tell Ian what you're going through. And when I told him what I was going through, and he prayed with me, that was a game changer in terms of the direction that my mind was going in. The marriage, it may lag a little bit behind the mind shifts, but you're going to see changes in the marriage with the mind
Absolutely.
shift, the perspective shifts.
Absolutely. So as you go into now the ministry, how
Hmm.
important was it, especially the ministry you're in, when it comes to
Hmm.
now giving women the opportunity to go through the healing and restoration and empowering process that you went through? How important was it to have a man like Ian or a man like your husband um, be aligned? Use a great word. Be aligned with that calling of your life, because now the same example that you said you guys had to set for the kids when
Hmm.
you were in youth group as you were dating, that example is even on 10 now,
Yeah.
because now you have people who are
Hmm.
watching. So
Yes.
you have people who have opinions, you have people who have certain expectations of you as
Hmm.
Zemi, and then you and Ian. You have people who are either going to support, you have people who are going to support with one eye saying,
Yeah.
but I
Just
watch
like
it.
that.
Let me tell you, as also a preacher's kid, I am well
Hmm.
aware of every
Hmm.
last one of those situations, if
Hmm.
you will. And so talk about how that importance of having someone who is aligned with what your calling is, and and how that journey has been.
Yeah, it's been a real rough on my husband because he has been taught to process things in private, and I'm more public, as you can see. And so there had to be a balance of be you, Zemi, but at the same time honor me. And so we had to have that constant conversation and understanding. Um, as well as, of course, he had to consent to me in launching this thing. So he was a big part of the pre-process, and he's a big part of a lot of the process, because even the social media posts, I'm like, what do you think about this? And not all of them, mind you. Some are a little rogue, but he sees a lot of it, and is a part of a lot of what we do. So there's that part. And then when I launched the ministry, there was some, it wasn't subtweeting because it was like not Twitter, it was Facebook, with some subliminal messages like, how are you starting a marriage ministry if you're a newlywed? Like, what do you know? And it's true. What did I know? But I know that the Lord called me to it. I know that He said start it. And so to combat that in the beginning, I wouldn't preach. Excuse me, what preach? I wouldn't teach. I would have other people come in and share. So I tried to even do it with order. If people thought I wasn't equipped already, then I would bring in other people too. Now I begin to use my voice more. I also wanted to lead from a place of authenticity. I don't ever want people to think that I am perfect, um, because I'm not. And a lot of people have been hurt in ministry because they thought a leader was perfect because they exuded perfection. And then they realized that person was not perfect and their whole world like tumbles down. I've witnessed it happen on multiple occasions with various leaders. And so I never wanted to lead from a place of perfection. I wanted to be raw, real, authentic, and tell you my truth. Now, and that has resonated with people. They see my heart. They see the purity I have towards my service, and it has helped to for the ministry to flourish. And yes, you get false prophecies. Oh, I see.
Hello.
I got. I see. One of the prophecies was, oh, I see you on like a rocky bridge. There's cheating in the marriage. There's infidelity in the marriage. So I go to my husband like, this person just tell me there's cheating in the marriage. You have something to tell
Are
me?
you cheating? There's something you want to tell us?
Do you have something to tell me? And so, like things like that can cause undue issues. And then for a long time, I didn't view myself as a leader. It didn't matter that I had a team. It didn't matter that people look up to me. It didn't matter that people asked me to mentor them. I didn't view myself as a leader. I viewed myself as a servant of God. That's it. And so
When
I
did that change
only
for you?
in the last 2 years, and
What changed?
someone I trust came to me and said, Zemi, you are a leader. The Lord says that you are a leader.
Right.
And so I was like, okay. And then I took that information and I began to view my service through the lens of that, and began to view my service a little differently and position myself a little differently. I still prioritize servant leadership. So that's how I will always lead. But I began to view myself as a leader.
But I think that's the way it should always be.
It should,
There's
yes.
no dichotomizing it. Like I automatically heard a leader the minute you said, I never viewed myself as a leader. I always viewed myself as a servant of God, who's doing the service of God. And in my mind thinking, but that is exactly what a leader is. The moment a leader believes that I no longer have to serve in my leadership role, those are the ones that I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not, you're not a leader. And one thing that, of course, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, my father, he talked about true leadership being servant leadership. Like that's where it starts, that's where it begins, and that's also where it ends. Like when you think about Jesus, like he served all the time. And people couldn't believe, Master, we should be washing your feet. He said, if you only knew, no, Master, I'm not worthy to baptize you. You should be baptizing me. And he said, look, there's an order to this thing. And so I'm so grateful that you didn't stay. Even I don't care if it's just been a day that you recognize that I've been a leader for the last however many years because I've been serving. I'm glad that that didn't stay in that mindset of I'm not leading people. I'm just serving God, because the two are one and the same. And we get to see it. And I'm so grateful to hear you talk about how important it is for your partner to be, and Zemi, where you are right now, like I can only imagine the opinions and the sip and the gossip and the tea that's going on, because a lot of people love to look at your past and then measure you up to what you should be doing or should not be doing, or how you should be acting or behaving. And just how you said, well, people are saying, but how are you having a whole marriage ministry and you just got married? The question should be, but how are you having a whole marriage ministry with the past you had? But to me, it is those type of pasts, if you will, that that God always uses. And I don't know why. I'm still trying to figure it out. He's been doing it from the Bible days, from
Yeah.
years and years, thousands of
Jesus
years
came
ago.
from a legacy of people who messed up,
Who
you know?
messed up? My goodness, look at David. We can go on and on.
Hmm.
But look at you today. Look at you, and it's a pity that you have to put all your dirty laundry out there in order for people to believe that you're authentic. But look at
Hmm.
you today having a thriving ministry, taking women through healing and empowerment and restoration, whose past isn't beautiful, whose past is dark and bleak and full of trauma triggers, as you're talking about. But yet they get to listen and watch you and see you and say, man, but here's this beautiful woman who has gone through the work, put in the individual work to say, I want to help you. I've been where you are. I know what it is. Let's normalize this, but then let's also not stay here. And so now you have Wife Her Ministry helping women heal through some of the same things that a lot of people would like to use to disqualify them.
Yeah.
And the journey hasn't been,
Mhm.
go ahead.
No, it's interesting because as you were speaking, uh, another prophetic word came to mind where someone came in my inbox on Facebook, and this one I was way more vocal. I would do short clips about various parts of my story and stuff like that. And she said, it's beautiful to see the Lord using you, and in spite of all of your mistakes. And she made it seem as if it was a word from the Lord, like the Lord was saying, in spite of my mistakes. And that was interesting to me because I knew that was her opinion, that the Lord is using me despite how unqualified I am, or how flawed I am, or how messed up my past was, my choices were. But the thing about it is, I knew it wasn't God because I would talk to God in private about that stuff, and He didn't view it as mistakes at all. Like, to Him, it was just like, serve me. I love you. Serve me. He wasn't bringing up, oh, I'm going to use you in spite. Like, he's not that type of father. Like, yes, he's not recalling my mistakes. He's not making me feel flawed in any way. And so I knew that was her filter. But at the same time, it caused me to pull back and be quiet, because I was like, this how people kind of viewing me, and I was silent for a while in terms of, sharing from my experiences personally. I went quiet for like a little over a year until the Lord pulled me out of that process. And so the Lord pulled me out of that. My mother-in-law saying hi. And so it's just interesting how you can, go through even seasons of feeling unfit and unqualified, but it's not based in reality, because that wasn't what the Lord saw. But at the same time, and I knew that, but it still crippled me. And so there's things that you had to work through even to be functioning in ministry to this day. I'm sure you know all about it, because you've probably been through it time and time again and had to jump over that hurdle, and to a point where it's not even a threat anymore. It's like a little speed bump. But yeah, that's what I had to work through as well.
And it takes some time because sometimes we are still human. And
Yeah.
so it does, especially when you are in the work of servant leadership, especially to your calling and to your gift. You are going to have, it's almost like the more I get closer to my calling and my gift, the more the enemy rises up.
Mm.
The further away I am, he's like, well, she on my side anyway, so I'm good. And the further we are from him, he does all kinds of things and sends all kinds of people, no matter how they look. Prophetic, just a thought, a dream, a friend,
Mhm.
people who you thought was your friend and then they betrayed you. You know what that feels like and look
Yeah.
like. Um, but like so many of us, you were able to still stick to your calling, even in
Mhm.
those moments where you pulled back, even in
Mhm.
those moments where you felt like, okay, then I won't say anything since y'all think I'm not qualified. Let me put someone else there. How did you still stick to what you know was your calling? How did you didn't throw up your hand and say, you know what, I'm not doing this Wife Her Ministry anymore. Um, people are tearing me down. It's just not for me. Like, what is it that you're like, no, even though I'm going to be quiet, there's something that clicked and you're like, no, this was not my baby. that this was God's baby that He allowed me to have?
Exactly that, like when you know that I'm not doing this for myself, and also when you like, I see the enemy in that, so I know that's the enemy, that's not God's voice, that's the enemy, and so I'm gonna oppose the enemy and take the heel and go for his head. And so yes, I will take feedback. I always say, even if it's hard, I take the feedback and I would adjust accordingly. So yes, there was a season where maybe I would do more blogs, or I would do more social media posts. I wouldn't necessarily go on camera. So maybe it was a season like that. Or when I went on camera, I wouldn't talk about my personal stuff. I'll just stick to, what revelation I received from the Word of God. And so, and kind of gracefully begin to weave my story in, instead of, using a whole life based on my story and things that I could teach you about based on my story. So I took different approaches through that time. And then when you get out of it, when you realize, okay, the Lord wants you to begin speaking more, and then, easing your way into that as well. So He's been very gracious and very kind with me and allowing me to progress through these things. And even now, like for Galentine Vibes, I put people on the stage. I very rarely go on the stage. Like I'll host and I'll ask questions, but I very rarely teach. I did only in last year, in 2024, I shared my story about really the loss of my mom and my birthing experience, and it was just a story to me. It was just a story. So it wasn't the same as, I think, what the level the Lord has called me to. So I'm still, I wouldn't say running or shrinking, but I'm still preparing for what He would call me to do. And so
So now
He's
we
been
want to know.
gracious.
Now we and my listeners would like to know about this story about you do have a son, beautiful son.
Hmm.
Um about your birthing story. Was that Yes, tell us what that story is about.
So we I had stage 4 endometriosis and a blocked tube and multiple cysts. And so I was told that my best course of action would be IVF. And prayed about it, started the process, stopped the process because I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing. And then prayed about it again and moved forward. And so there's that, and all of the things that IVF brings. That could be a whole podcast in of itself, and infertility and fertility journeys. And so I also had a friend who was facing similar challenges, and we had reconciled, and we were, coming together. And I was like, we probably in each other's lives again to help each other through this journey. This is when we were both believing in faith. And so she gets pregnant ahead of me, and I'm like, okay, God, like, okay, she reached the first trimester. Should I go now? And then I'm like, okay, I read a blog that says, okay, you could there are infant mortality rates, and so I'm like, I'm holding back. And then I'm like, okay, she's at the third trimester now, we can go. And so that's when I went. I was trying to control the situation because I wanted her to be good so we could enjoy it together. I wanted it to be something we experienced together. So she has her baby, and 2 days later, I get a text message that her baby passed away. And at this point, I am pregnant. Um, Not just pregnant, but the Lord had revealed openly to the crowd at Galentine Vibes that I was pregnant. My son was the size of a sprinkle, and a family friend, put her hand on my womb, and she said into the mic, "Hold on, a baby in here." So he was already like prophetically declared. I couldn't even hold it to the chest. It was only like 4 weeks pregnant. So I get this news, and immediately it's like I begin to escort the spirit of fear all throughout my pregnancy from this point onward. Um, the anxiousness, the fear, all throughout pregnancy. I take it into the delivery room. Um, we wanted to give birth at the birth center, but I ended up having low amniotic fluid, so I had to be induced that same day, which is even traumatic in and of itself, to go from having one birth plan to all of a sudden nothing about that birth plan could be reality. And so essentially just letting fear overwhelm me. And when you have fear in the birthing room, that can lead to all kinds of things. That can lead to your body, not responding in the way you want it to, your cervix not responding in the way you need it to. And then my son wasn't doing well in terms of positionings. He was going into distress and stuff like that. And so it was just a lot of things. It was like, I moved a certain way, and all of a sudden, like, his heart rate went and they couldn't get it together. And all these doctors fled into the room. And so you don't know what's going on. And then we're progressing in the process. And then all of a sudden, I need oxygen. And they're asking me, do you have a history of asthma? Do you have COVID? And I'm like, no, no. And on top of that, I didn't even realize that my breathing was labored. I thought I'm just stressed. Like, y'all just came in here and a flood of doctors. That's just the stress. So my oxygen isn't stabilizing. And they don't know what's wrong with me. They're running all these tests. They're doing, they did a heart scan and all these things. And then finally, after they checked me multiple times to see if I was progressing, my cervix started to swell because of how many times they had checked me. And so we collectively made a decision. I told Ian, I said, even if I am 9.5 centimeters, I'm going to get a C-section because I don't want to put my baby at risk and I don't want to put your wife at risk. So he was all team, let's go. And I was like, no, I see what's happening here. And I don't want to put your baby at risk and I don't want to put me at risk. Because I literally thought that I could die because it was just so much going on. And that's how I went into the C-section room, thinking that I could die. And so I began shifting from preparing for my son and all the joy of that experience to thinking I'm about to die. And I don't even know if I'm going to meet my son or how he's going to be. And so he's born and there's no crying. They're saying, oh, he's so cute. Oh, he's so long. He has so much hair, but he's not crying. And then a few minutes pass and he starts to cry. But I couldn't hold him because I was afraid of getting attached to him. So for 4 hours, I refused to hold him and everything like that. And it really was based in, and we talk about like the Ben and Jerry. This is another sign for me. Like, Zemi, you're not healed because you were prepared to grieve your son before you were prepared to celebrate his life. Period. I was prepared to grieve my son. I spent many, many weeks, even postpartum, thinking I could lose my son. It was driving me crazy, literally, until I had to release my son to the Lord and begin to apply scripture. The enemy had me in such a wheel. I wasn't even applying scripture. I didn't even remember that there was scripture for anxiety. That's how much in a haze I was. And then I began to apply scripture and I broke down crying to Ian because, in his position, just, work through it. And so I just start crying like, you don't understand how I feel. And then it just takes one breakdown. And then, from there, he kind of got it. My friends came to visit. His sister came to visit, and it got better. But, what ended up happening was I was diagnosed with a heart condition. I had a pregnancy-related cardiomyopathy, which meant that my heart wasn't functioning optimally, and it wasn't circulating oxygenated blood. So what that also meant was they said I could potentially never do IVF again or never conceive again because the risk of this happening again is heightened and it gets worse and worse and worse. And so I was 10 toes down. I rebuke you, enemy, because I have children on ice who need their mommy, So I was rebuking that, and so it ended up healing. And then, I'm working through that too. Birth trauma on top of all that stuff. I'm working through it to prepare myself for, the next. But that really threw a wrench in everything. And it started the moment when my friend said, yeah, because I was like, God, I waited so that we can have this. I tried, and what he is hearing is I waited, but what the words really are is, Lord, I controlled this thing. I was steering this thing. How could you do this? I was never supposed to be steering. What another friend told me was, Zemi, don't delay the promise for yourself. Don't delay your own promise thinking about someone else's promise. You have no control. You have no control. So that was a big lesson for me. And that translates to even now. A big theme for this year is be the light. Be the city on the hill. Shine your light. Don't put your light under a bowl. Be all the things. Don't worry about other people. Be all that God has called you to be, because worrying about people in that sense, like you have no control. We think we do. And when we think we have control, it leads to anxiety and all of those things. But I had no control. I had no zero control.
And it's one of those things where you almost have to let go of the wheel.
Yes.
Like, Jesus, take the wheel,
Take it.
because he would let you. He will turn you over to that type of mind if you want to, the more you push. But as soon as you say, God, I can't do this. And I'm so sorry to hear about your friend losing
Yeah.
hers and what you've gone through. But now it's been, how old is your son now?
He's 50. He'll be 50 in months.
Now he's almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
Beautiful boy, beautiful boy. And I even that now becomes another opportunity for you to
Hmm.
serve yourself, to help heal,
Yeah.
empower, and
Hmm.
women and restore other women who are now going through this fertility
Hmm.
issues and birthing issues, and like, and I wish it wasn't that way. I wish our pain didn't have to be the route we go to get to our purpose and our calling, but that's just the way it is.
Hmm.
And sometimes it in the moment it's never beautiful, never beautiful. In the moment, even when I think about where I'm at in my calling, there's a level of, my goodness, pain that could still be in.
Yeah.
It's been
Hmm.
10 years since I've lost my parents to a
Yeah.
plane crash, but there's a level of pain that I had to go through to even still be able to stand here and still talk about. But it was purpose that gave me life. It was purpose that gave me the next day to
Hmm.
say, okay, Sharissa, take up this mantle, take up this cross, and run with it.
Hmm.
Because I could have said, no, I don't want to be here if they're not. That was what I said
Yeah.
hours later. Um, but here you are talking about your pain, talking through your pain, but it is that's going to continue to blossom your ministry and grow your ministry. And the more women that, and I'm so glad that I mean, because ladies and gentlemen, if you thought that her deepest, darkest pain and hurt and grief was losing her mom at 12, and then going from there to, those years of just poor decisions, and then in a stage of an abusive relationship, and then she finally meets her Prince Charming, and then that is all, and now to hear about now this birthing pain, like, you've just spoken to so many different women
Hmm.
who are either suffering in silence, who don't think that others are going through what they're going through. Um, and I'm grateful that you're able. Thank you so much for sharing, because I want people to see that your pain is not a cancellation to your purpose. Your pain is a qualification to
Hmm.
your purpose.
And
And
I think there are people too who think that I don't have a story. Therefore, do I have purpose? It's like we did a meet and greet with the team recently, and some of the team grew up in the ghetto, and some of them grew up out west, never having touched foot in the ghetto, right? And I'm like, so what they would preference their story with was, well, I don't have that experience, but I'm like, your experience is valid too. You don't have to lose a parent. You don't have to experience infertility. You don't have to have a word from the Lord, to have something to give to the world, and so don't go and create a story just to have one. Don't create hardship for yourself just to have a story. And I think some people do that just to have something, but life wasn't meant to be that way.
no,
Like if
absolutely.
you live in the promised land and you eating the milk and honey, that's your testimony to
That's
stand
your
on. God is
story.
so faithful.
Yes.
And that's what I want for my children. That maybe mommy went through the trenches and I have a beautiful life. I know the Lord from a young age. I have a beautiful life. And let that be it. They still serve the Lord. So I just wanted to just for that person who may be thinking, well, I don't have a story. So am I good enough? You are more than good enough. You are
Or
more than good enough.
they could be that person who is saying, I thought I had a story
Mm.
until I heard your story. And if
Mm.
that's your story, then I need to stop complaining. I don't care how big, I don't care how small, I don't care how painful. If you have gone through whatever it is, you would have gone, just like how purpose comes in all shapes and sizes, colors and textures. So does your story, so does your journey, so does the path and road that you're on, and so does your lessons.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to, my goodness, be on your deathbed, but maybe you just went through, wanting validation in your life and you
Mhm.
never got it. Therefore, you didn't think you were worthy. Boom. That is a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Because if you're working through that, needing validation, and you're working through growing your your worth and understanding your worth, and now no longer thinking that you're not worthy, like, that's your whole testimony right there.
Yeah.
And I love the
Mhm.
work that I do in my training and development space, where I get to work with people in personal development, spiritual development, but also, going through these barriers and limitations that we need to break through and break off so that we
Mhm.
can truly live our life in our calling. And I'm glad to hear that as far as you are in your calling, you're still working through. If anybody tells me I'm working in my calling and I'm good, I'm healed, I'm running. I'm running because I want to know that you are always working on yourself. You are always in the business of growing. You're always in the ing of whatever it is that you're doing, because that means it's ongoing. And if it's ongoing, then I can learn from you.
Mhm.
Then I can learn from you. And so we get to learn from you. I'm so grateful that you. I'm grateful for your story. I'm grateful for your authenticity. I'm grateful for your willingness to share, to go deep, to go where you didn't think that this
I
interview would have gone.
didn't.
But I know who's listening. I know what they need to hear. I
Mhm.
want them to be able to hear from real people who are doing great things in the world, but the journey ain't always easy. It ain't always peaches and cream. It ain't always picnic. Um, so they get to hear themselves in you, in me, and in others, and they get to say, okay, I can do this. One more day, one more hour, I can do this. If she did, if he did, so can I.
Yeah.
And then, so if you had to give the best advice you can give to a man or a woman listening, especially to the women listening to us today, what would that advice be?
I would say keep your ear close to the Lord because you need to hear His voice above any others. If it's even if His voice is a whisper, if it's a groan, whatever it may be, but you need to be able to decipher the Lord's voice above all others because that is going to be the rudder for your life.
I love that. Keep your ear close to the Lord. Keep your ear close to the Lord. Zemi, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for being open. We are grateful for the advice. I'm sure I know I'm going to run with it even more. And I hope you take whatever you can from what you heard from our discussion and conversation today to make whatever adjustments you need and start making better decisions for yourself, better decisions for your future,
Yeah.
because your life truly does depend on it. And your purpose truly does depend on you being completely aligned. So let's just celebrate Zemi Stewart. She's going to tell us a little bit about Wife Her Ministry and about Galentine's
Mhm.
vibes coming next year. I know we would have missed this year. So tell us a little bit more about next year's, how we can follow you, where we can find you, how we can register.
So you will be the first to know where Galentine Vibes 2026 is going. We're going to Chicago.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm in Chicago.
you're in
I'm in
Chicago?
Chicago. Yes, ma'am. That's where I live. Got married, moved here 5 years ago, and this is where I am.
What?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's such, I have chills. Okay, so we're going to Chicago. The dates I have to confirm. My husband is saying we shouldn't bring the people to Chicago in February. You could let me know
Oh
if
yeah, no
that's
makeup.
so.
Agreed.
We're working on the dates. But that's where we're gonna be. The theme for 2026 is chosen. Is chosen. This theme for this year is why is it gone already? Birthing ground. And the theme for next year is chosen. So the Lord gave me the theme a year ago. So he gives the themes 2 years in advance. So we just anticipate that he's going to show up. Galentine Vibes is, simply put, a reunion of God's daughters. It's birthed out of Wife Her Ministry. It's the place where we come to meet together. It's all online for the most part. So this is our way to be in the same space, to get the hugs, to be rejuvenated, to form the partnerships and the collaborations. And yeah, that's essentially it. So to learn more about Galentine Vibes, you go to www.galentinevibes.com. And then Wife Her, we're all over. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. And of course, if you find me, I'll direct you everywhere you want to go. So I can also pinpoint you to which one of those you may be interested in. But it was an absolute pleasure being here. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I even feel like I'm walking away with some healing and some language to process my own development further.
Oh,
So
I
thank
love
you.
it. I love it. So, yes, I will be in the building next year at Galentine Vibes in Chicago, Illinois. Make sure you go and check it out and register if you need to. It's definite, especially to the woman who wants to be healed, who wants to go through her healing, be empowered and restored. You want to be under the leadership and service of Zemi Stewart. Zemi, thank you again for being here. Before we leave, I've been ending all of my interviews on the greatest note ever, next to Jesus Christ himself, and that's food. I am a
Ah!
foodie. Let me tell you. You want to see me smile? Feed me, take me to a restaurant, bring me some good food, whatever it is. So tell us, what is your favorite food and favorite restaurant?
I don't have a favorite restaurant because I'm a foodie.
Okay.
I just love food. I especially love crepes. So I love everywhere I go, I look for a French restaurant that serves a good crepe. And
All day
I
crepes.
love Bahamian fruit. So sea grapes, cocoa
Mm.
plum,
Oh, yes.
mangoes.
Ganaps.
Yes,
The tamarind.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I
Man,
will
I can't
eat the
get them.
bag full.
I never home for these seasons, so I always missing these things. Oh my goodness. Oh, I think out of all those you mentioned, sea grape is my favorite. But I never there. I'm never there.
September. Make sure you reach home for September.
September. I have to
Yes,
remember that
September.
month. September.
So I grew up knowing we don't have spring, summer, winter, fall in the Bahamas. I knew mango season. I knew my sea grape season. I knew my cocoa. I knew my seasons that way. That's
Love it. I
it.
love it. I love it. Oh, Zemi, we have enjoyed you. Thank you so, so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been great having you here. To those who are listening, we hope that you got all you needed today. And until next time on Purpose Finder Podcast, see you soon. Bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Finder Podcast. I hope today's conversation lit a fire within you, because purpose isn't just something you chase. It is something you live every single day. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people on their journey to purpose. Let's continue the journey together. Join the Purpose Finder community on Facebook for exclusive insights, tools, and a tribe of purpose-driven people just like you. And remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Your purpose isn't far off. It's already within you. It's time for you to uncover it and live it boldly. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep walking in your purpose.